at that with a beautiful story and talking about what God's really asking us to sacrifice, and won't go into all the details, but that's a big part of what God's asking us. Like, just give that part up, that part that tries to think through 9 ways to Sunday every single little thing. That part gets stuck. That part of our rational mind gets stuck. It gets stuck, and we just need to, eventually like move past it, because there's not a whole lot good that comes out of overthinking. So I want to read for you a passage here, and this is one, and I think we'd have a little humor with this, actually, because we do all overthink, like all the time we overthink. And, silly examples, like somebody doesn't return a phone call. So we have this huge story in our head about, like, well, I don't want to be friends anymore, blah, 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 blah. And then you find out, right, that they had the stomach flu. I don't know, any number of things. And so that overthinking is a really interesting thing to take a look at, to think about why we do it, and to think about how we can move past it. So this is the passage that's talking about it. This is from the book Secrets of Heaven 28:32. And it's talking about it in context, a religious context. In other words, when we have things of faith and we just like spin them over in our head again and again and again. Anyone willing to pay attention and reflect can see from his or her experience with people who say they cannot believe anything unless they grasp its truth through their senses or their knowledge. If you examine your character, you'll find they believe nothing. Oh, that's good. There's also a large number of people who claim to have belief in spite of not understanding, but probably spend just as much time debating inside themselves. So it's talking about in a faith context here, and in a faith context, we can really get totally wrapped around, debating whether something is true or not. And and again, with all things, there's a call for balance here. There's a call to say there's a time for that and a time for that conversation. But I know, for me, I get tired of it. It gets really tiresome. I don't want to debate a lot of things anymore. I don't want to try to figure out all the little iterations of every little piece of theology. I think God kind of makes it pretty simple. And here I borrow from my buddy Dave Roth, and Dave said, yeah, the Lord makes it pretty simple. Here's the 10 Commandments, which are this what not to do. And then here's the 2 great commandments: love the Lord your God and the person right in front of you. These are the things to do. It's just that simple, and everything else is an echo of that. Now, does that mean that we can't look more deeply into that? That's what we do here at 10 Minutes of Morning Calm, right? Every morning. Can it mean that we don't try to glean a little different perspective on that? Absolutely. But we're trying to do it from this positive bit of not trying to like parse every single little thing. Boom, 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 boom. And I just, sometimes, online we'll get invited into a debate. No interest in that at all. And yeah, friends, what comes out the other end when we don't allow ourselves just to fall into sort of, believe it or not, the word thoughtless debate around things? Because it really isn't thoughtful. It's really thoughtless. It's just sort of going through the mental machinations that can feel appealing but really aren't. What happens when we get rid of that? Well, it just allows us to draw so much closer to other people. And I've been thinking a lot. I'm going to be preaching on this again, even though I did preach on it a little bit a few weeks back. Mary Oliver's quote is so beautiful, where she says, I believe there is such a thing as a soul, and that a soul, paraphrasing here, that the soul is made of pure attentiveness. Love that idea. Like, the more I think about that, the more it just is incredibly true. And that attentiveness has to be looking outward, and we can't be stuck in our own heads, because it's no great feat to disprove things. It really isn't. And a lot of people, more than once I've run across people like, yeah, I finally disproved religion. I finally disproved there's a God, and let me show you proof. And that's this is me being a little snarky for a minute. That's a victory. Like, that's a win. That's a W. I don't think so. I don't find it that way. I mean, people can believe in God or not, that's fine. But the idea that there's sort of a gotcha in that doesn't work so well. And there's an attentiveness that, instead of going out there towards other people, that it gets bent back in towards ourselves. And the fact is, this is me being a little snarky too. The fact is, we should be so caught up in the relationships that God is calling us to, that we don't have time for a lot of debate. We just don't have time for it, because we're out there doing things. We're out there doing the things that God has asked us to do, which should keep us plenty busy. So I hope that makes sense, friends. So as best you can, just give up overthinking. Practice the soul as attentiveness. Use that as a way to look out there on the world, not to look inward to your own thoughts and debates, but to look out there into the world. And may things like 10 minutes of morning calm just be helpful little morning reminders, not debating points, not things we go to the mat on, but just beautiful little reminders of what that path can be for us, both at an individual level and a community level, as we seek to serve and become more loving. So that is the thought for today, my friends. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little breath. We're going to do a little prayer, a little meditation, and then we'll say hi to folks on Facebook. So to get us started, please join me in a big breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello to folks out there in the internet world. And again, I hope you all have a wonderful day ahead of you as we head into vacation season here. Gignone, great to have you joining us, and a beautiful day to you as well, my friend. And now flipping over to here. All right. Okay, no comments up on that one. All right, dear friends. Well, listen, God bless. Take care.